Coming up today, the US military opens its THAAD base in Guam to Korean media in a bid to allay health and safety fears over the upcoming deployment of the anti-missile system to South Korea. President Park Geun-hye wins greater international support for her administration's North Korea policies during a trip to Mongolia. She also secures stronger trade and investment ties with Ulaanbaatar. First, Korea's rival parties and the government agree on a supplementary budget focused on job creation and improving people's lives. It could be approved by next week. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello to our viewers around the world. It's 6 a.m. on Tuesday, July 19th here in Seoul. Thank you ever so much for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this morning. The United States has given Korean reporters a tour of one of its THAAD anti-missile defense systems in Guam. U.S. military officials conducted an electromagnetic wave measurement to reassure South Koreans that the THAAD battery to be deployed on the Korean peninsula does not pose a risk to human health or the environment. Kim Hyun-bin starts us off.
Anderson Air Force Base in Guam unveiled its THAAD battery to the Korean press for the first time on Monday to reassure the Korean public that the electromagnetic waves from the missile defense system's powerful radar will not harm humans. The reporters witnessed a test of the electromagnetic waves emitted from the system's radar, which is a primary concern for residents in Seongju County, where THAAD is to be deployed in South Korea. The test was conducted 1.6 kilometers away from the radar system. The location was chosen because the THAAD radar to be dispatched in Seongju is around 1.5 kilometers away from the closest village. The test lasted 6 minutes, and the maximum measurement was 0.0007 watts per square meter, far below the 10 watts per square meter maximum permitted under Korean law. The U.S. says Seongju is the best location for THAAD.
The selected site best represented those operational and safety, environmental, and health concerns in the area. The operational capability and the operational effectiveness were balanced against those other concerns.
THAAD is designed to intercept North Korea's mid- and long-range ballistic missiles, and it is scheduled to be deployed to South Korea by the end of 2017. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Now, President Park Geun-hye returned home on Monday after attending the ASEM summit and holding bilateral talks in Mongolia. She achieved two key goals. First, upping pressure on North Korea, and secondly, boosting free trade for the South Korean economy. Our Song Ji-son, who travelled with the president, has a wrap-up of President Park's trip.
President Park Geun-hye's consistent message of denuclearizing North Korea was echoed through the ASEM summit and bilateral talks with Mongolia during her 5-day stay.
북한의 핵 위협 등이 인류의 평화와 안정을 끊임없이 위협하고 있고 우리를 분열시키는 다양한 도전들을 우리를 단합시키는 일치된 목표를 통해 극복하는 것이 무엇보다 중요하다고 생각합니다.
Leaders acknowledged the deeds, condemning Pyongyang's nuclear and missile tests in the strongest terms in the Ulaanbaatar statement. They also showed support for Seoul's initiative for peace and cooperation in Northeast Asia.
Our two countries have agreed to cooperate in denuclearizing the Korean peninsula and ensuring peace and security in the region. We'll continue those efforts on the international stage and within the United Nations.
President Park's message for expanding open trade against the rising trend of trade protectionism was also delivered to other ASEM member nations. Seoul and Ulaanbaatar set the base for free trade through their bilateral summit, agreeing to initiate joint research for the Economic Partnership Agreement, a pact similar to FTA.
It's a preemptive measure setting the ground for investment. We've built an expressway to realize the potential of economic cooperation and trade growth between the two countries.
President Park attended a business forum before flying back to Seoul to help link Korean companies with local buyers in Mongolia, saying the two countries can further boost growth in a mutually beneficial way.
또한 몽골은 풍부한 광물을 보유한 세계 10대 자원 부국이고 한국은 첨단 기술을 보유한 제조업 강국이기에 상호 보완적 경제 구조를 토대로 한 협력의 잠재력은 더욱 큽니다.
President Park's visit set the groundwork to enter the Mongolian market, a niche market for South Korea and a gateway linking Asia and Europe. Her drive to denuclearize Pyongyang will be helped with support from Mongolia, which also has long-time diplomatic relations with North Korea. 송지선, Arirang News, Ulaanbaatar.
Now, in light of President Park Geun-hye's trip to Mongolia, attention is now on how the visit could elevate economic ties between the two sides. Our Kim Min-ji takes a closer look into the potential of a country that is dubbed the gateway to Eurasia.
Mongolia has the world's second-largest copper reserves and the fourth biggest coal deposits. So it should come as little surprise that the mining sector is the main driver of the Mongolian economy, accounting for almost a quarter of the country's GDP. During its transition from a socialist country to a market-driven economy, such resources were a stepping stone to achieve economic growth. Until recently, Mongolia has experienced double-digit growth. It has now somewhat slowed due mainly to a decline in raw material prices, as well as slowing foreign investment. Korea and Mongolia established diplomatic relations in 1990 and have maintained friendly ties in various areas. Bilateral trade stood at a mere $2.7 million in 1990, but surged more than 100-fold to $292 million in 2015. Korea's investment to Mongolia amounted to $240,000 in 1994 and jumped to $38.8 million last year. While growing, the figures pale in comparison to those of neighboring countries like China, Russia, and Japan, all of which have established strategic partnerships with Ulaanbaatar, a notch higher than the comprehensive partnership Korea has with Mongolia.
Since establishing a comprehensive partnership during the previous administration, we hope President Park's visit will help us develop ties beyond that.
Currently, over 500 Korean companies operate in Mongolia, and conglomerates like Hyosung Group and POSCO Energy have been involved in infrastructure projects. More opportunities could be in the works as Mongolia is pursuing a national project dubbed Transit Mongolia to overcome its landlocked geographic location with a trade, transport, and logistics network. It's also pushing for large-scale infrastructure projects in railway, roads, and terminals over the next 5 years.
Following summit talks, it's expected that investment will expand in the areas discussed, whether that be mining or construction. This will also create more jobs. Korea should also be open to other sectors like ICT.
However, Korea still has to overcome problems such as a lack of information and expensive transportation costs. One solution to this is by boosting economic deals.
Mongolia is also seeking to develop a system for stable and efficient trade and investment. Also, Korea may feel more pressure to establish an economic partnership agreement, as neighboring countries are stepping up interest, and its major rival Japan recently did so.
Experts add the support is needed from the government level by holding regular high-level and summit talks to seek opportunities for Korean companies through partnerships with local firms. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Now, as a follow-up to that report, Korea and Mongolia share close ties in many fields. Helping to strengthen the already solid bond between the two nations is Hallyu, or as it's known in English, the Korean Wave. For a look at how K-pop and K-dramas are helping to herald an even brighter future for Korea and Mongolia, our Connie Kim reports.
The Korean wave has taken most parts of Asia, and Mongolia is no exception. 18-year-old An Hwa-tang is a self-confessed K-pop lover whose room is plastered with posters of her favorite pop stars.
이거는 방탄소년단이고 면동에서 샀어요. 여기는 그 엑소 최근 돌아오기 몬스타 포스터가 있어요.
아침에 일어나면은 지금 이 포스터들 다 보고 일어나는 거예요?
네, 이거 일어나면서 이거들 보고 그날 그 힘을 받아요. 네.
운동하면서도 보고.
An Hwa-tang is just one of the thousands of K-pop fans in Mongolia who regularly gather with friends to eat, share the latest news, and show off their dance moves. Some of the performers can't speak any Korean, but that doesn't keep them from memorizing the lyrics and dance routines. The love among fans for K-pop and Korean dramas has also spurred a passion for learning the Korean language, especially at Ulaanbaatar State University located in the heart of the capital. 45 students study Korean language, history, and archaeology at this Ulaanbaatar State University, and a third of them are here during their summer vacation to study what they love, Korean culture. Students learn vocabulary and traditional folktales, pick out new words, and reenact some of the scenes. The demand for Korean language education has increased steadily in recent years, with about 20 Mongolian universities now teaching Korean. But why do Mongolian students choose to learn the Korean language?
말을 안 통하는 그 두 사람을 연결해 줄 수 있는 다리가 되고 싶어서 한국어를 전공했습니다.
The number of the Mongolian students who learn the Korean language is almost 4,500. Once again, we think that the Mongolian young generation who really enjoy the Korean culture are the very precious asset to our diplomacy.
Going forward, the two countries hope to further expand their bilateral relationship through people-to-people exchanges and potentially via economic cooperation by working together to develop renewable energy resources and other projects. Connie Kim, Arirang News, Ulaanbaatar.
Now, in other news, chief policymakers from Korea's three main political parties met with the finance minister on Monday on the government's multi-billion-dollar budget supplement plan. While all of them agree on the need for stimulus, there was some agreement over the where, when, and how much. Ji Myung-gil has the details.
At the meeting on Monday, Finance Minister Yoo Il-ho urged the three main political parties to pass the government's proposed budget supplement, which is worth roughly $8.8 billion.
The government understands the current economic difficulties and will do all it can to shore up the economy and stabilize people's livelihoods. The budget supplement will support corporate restructuring and job creation efforts.
He also said the budget bill should be passed within a certain time frame, where it may not have the intended priming effect on the economy. The ruling's Haenuri party said it will do whatever it can to support the budget bill. The opposition parties urged the government to prepare for the possible mid- to long-term problems that could follow from Britain's decision to leave the European Union.
The budget should help the local economy and help Korea overcome the Brexit impact.
Our party will continue to cooperate with the government to implement other economic policies.
The opposition also advised the finance ministers to strengthen the government's support for the socially and economically disadvantaged members of the population. These include people like irregular workers, the self-employed, and people in small and medium-sized companies, who are the first to be affected if the economy deteriorates. The government plans to submit the budget bill to the National Assembly next week and is hoping that the parties will pass it quickly to counter the current economic challenges the country is facing. Ji Myung-gil, Arirang News.
Now, France says it has found no evidence the terrorists that killed 84 people in a truck attack in Nice last week had links to terror networks. At a press conference on Monday, Paris prosecutor François Molin said though there were no direct links found, the Tunisian attacker recently showed a certain interest in radical jihadist movements. He said the terror attack was premeditated and deliberate, as online searches of the killer's computer and phone showed information related to terrorist groups, the Bastille Day celebration, and videos of terrible traffic accidents. Now, Thursday's horrific attack also injured hundreds of people. 74 are still in the hospital, with 28 clinging on to life in intensive care units. 13 of those who were killed have not yet been identified. U.S. authorities have revealed that Gavin Long, the attacker in the deadly shootings in Baton Rouge, Louisiana on Sunday, had specifically targeted police officers. A spokesman for the Louisiana State Police said Monday that the gunman had, quote, definitely ambushed the officers. Another senior police official added that there was no doubt in his mind that Long, a former U.S. Marine, had traveled to Baton Rouge to kill police officers. Investigations have shown that a website, social media accounts and YouTube videos tied to the gunman include complaints about how he perceived the police mistreated black people. The attacker was also carrying a Washita Nation membership card, a black nationalist movement that considers the federal government illegitimate. Long killed 3 police officers and injured 3 others in the attack. Well, that's all we have for now. I'm Mark Broom. Thank you as always for tuning in to our news bulletins. We'll be back throughout the day with more newscasts. So until then, goodbye.